Hi, I'm following along with Paul McWhorter's Raspberry Pi PicoW lessons. And number 24, he's talking about making our projects portable using the rechargeable battery that's included in our Kepler kits. So the nice that he showed us how to do that, and there really wasn't any homework, but I decided, well, he showed how to make it a portable project, but in his case, the display and the DHT11 are hooked up to the same Pico, and so you can read the temperature. You can take it and read the temperature wherever you want, but a lot of times you want to know the temperature someplace where you're not at. So I figured I'd try some remote sensing on it, and found this instructable on how to connect multiple Raspberry Pi PicoWs over Wi-Fi. So this guy shows you how to do it in station mode. The other mode is access point, so we won't get into that, but this is in station mode. So station mode, you need to have a Wi-Fi, home Wi-Fi connection. That each of these connect to your home Wi-Fi, so that's why they're call it station mode. So he gives a nice short, well, first of all, with our Thorny, you normally only get one instance of the program to come up, but you can go into Tools, Options, General, and untick this, allow only one instance. Unless you're using two Picos, you want to keep that checked because it kind of messes up some stuff if you don't. So, but when you want to do this more than one, that's our option. So, and then he gives us some short code on creating a server and then client. So the client every so often asks the server. In this case, it's just asking it, and it's for data, and the data just happens to be a random number that it generates when it's asked. So, so the client asks for data, and the server is generating a random number and returning it to the client. So, and so proof of concept, I got those two programs, just copied and pasted them, and they worked fine. I had to put in my, my Wi-Fi credentials, but besides that, everything was good. Also, with this, you're going to the client will need to know what the IP address is of the server. So it prints it out, the IP address, the server. When you start it up, it'll connect to your Wi-Fi, and it'll tell you what the server, the IP address is. So I found that you can plug and unplug a certain Pico, at least on my Wi-Fi, and it gives it the same IP address every time. So you're able to hard code that into your client. Now, if you ended up with a different Pico, you might have to, or on a different Wi-Fi setup, you might have to, grab that information. So that's one thing with the station mode, that you got to know what the IP address of the client is. So anyhow, so let's get to the code. Like I say, I tested this code, so I'm not going to show you that, but I did the code for the server, which is the server is going to have the DHT11 object on it, and so we have that, and we're creating the object. So we've all done that, and then I got some functions here. The connection, all this does is connect to your home Wi-Fi, and that's what I doing here, and let it loop through until it finds a connection, and then it just returns that IP address. So let's get down here where the program starts. So we're cooking when those are just functions. So this is going to call that connect function, and it's going to return the IP address. And then so it can listen for things. You need to open a socket, and the socket will stay open on this IP address. So you're connecting, having an open socket there and just listening for it. So here's the code for opening the socket, and then you got this connection.listen. So it's just listening for what happens, listening for a connection. So once you got that, you have your connection. So then you go into your while true and you just sit here and you wait. Now I think this is a blocking function here, this connection.accept. So all you're doing is sitting here and waiting till you hear something from your connection asking for data and a request. And it doesn't really, we don't care what the request here is, so we're just printing it out, whatever the request is, and just doing that. And then, so we got a request, so we're just taking a measurement, and we're formatting the sensor data into just a colon separated list, so the temperature, colon, humidity. And then we're just sending that string back through there. The send function turns it into a byte string so that it can send it over there. And so we can just put a string here and it's done, and it tells us it's sent. This code came with the example, so I just left it in. So that's the part of it that is the server. So that's, like I say, that's where the DHT11 is. And this code is for the our client. So this is where we're going to have the LCD screen and our button to choose between Fahrenheit and Celsius. So we're creating an LCD object. We're creating a button pin for our button that we're going to do. Have some variables that we're creating here. The data list, I decided to do that as a list, so that putting our data in the list, when you split it, it's going to go into a list. So I figured just leave it there. And then the good thing about lists is you don't have to declare them as global in functions. They're mostly global. So then I have the same function. The connect function is exactly the same. And then I have a get reading function that I'll talk about, and then the update the LCD. And I chose to update this LCD a lot less frequently than I have in my last programs, because one of the other people taking the class said, why are we updating and sending data when it's not changed? And I kind of agree with that. So no sense making the processor work any harder than it has to. And here's where the start of the program again, and we're connecting to our Wi-Fi, and it's going to get it. This second Pico is going to get its own IP address, but we're really not concerned about what that IP address is, but we're returning it. And then we're going to do this previous millis and millis, the ticks differential, so that we're only doing the reading of this or asking for a reading every 2 seconds, 2000 milliseconds. So that's what we got going on there. And then we're getting the reading, and then once we get the reading, we want to print it to the LCD. And so we'll go back up here to get reading. All we're doing, we're opening a socket. So on the other side, on the server side, the socket stays open. But on this side, the client side, you open a socket, get what you want, and then you close the socket. So we're just doing that. We're connecting. And this is the hard-coded IP address that is on the server. That's the server IP address. So we're connecting to that at port 80. All we're doing is sending get DHT data. Like I said, that's just for our reference, because it doesn't matter what you send it, it's going to send it back, send something back, and then it's going to receive it. And like I say, this is going to be in a byte string, so we have to decode that, and that we're decoding it into a regular string. And then once we do that, like I say, it's going to be temperature colon humidity. So we want to split that string on the colon, and that gives us, we're putting it into data list 0 and data list 1. So that's what we're doing with that. And we're printing out just to monitor, and we're closing that. So that's going to get the reading and close, and we're not returning anything on that. So then the next one, this is function is print to LCD. So you can see that what we're doing, getting the reading, and then we're printing the LCF, and we're also passing in whether it's Celsius or Fahrenheit. And I'll show you a little bit farther down where buttons presses is toggling between the two. So we're passing in that, so it's a Boolean variable. So depending on which one it is, it's either going to read the temperature as it comes from the DHT in Celsius, or if it's false, we're going to do the Fahrenheit. So just doing the math for that, and then we're just formatting it to print it on, calling it line 1. So line 1 can either be Celsius or line 1 can be Fahrenheit, and we're just creating those. And line 2 is always going to be humidity, so we're just doing that one, and then we're just telling it LCD to write line 1 and line 2. So anyhow, that's basically what's happening. The only thing we're doing, like I said, this is only getting checked, only getting a reading every asking for a reading every 2 seconds. But we want to keep track of our button so it's responsive. So we're doing that each time through the loop, and we're getting the button value, and we're, also this debouncing here, and then we're checking if the button state has changed, and if it's a press, then we're going to change this. And so when it changes, we also want to update our print LCD. So CF has changed, so we're passing the different CF. It's going from false to true or true to false. So that's what we're doing there. And we're just maintaining, keeping track of the old state. So that we got them running, or got them about the code. So let's go ahead and get them running. So this is, I made this one the main. I created a program up here and then saved it to the Pico as main, and so that it should start running anytime it starts. There is a problem with that I'll show you in a little bit maybe, but anyhow, so it's going to be the main, so we're going to get that to start. So we're on that. I'm going to get that, and you can see Wi-Fi is connected, and like I said, it's at 221, and it connects to that every time. And I probably should have printed that it's listening for the client, but I didn't do that. But that's what it's doing at this point. It's just waiting for the client to come up. So need to bring up the other one. So this is the other one. So we're going to get it running. So you can see that our Wi-Fi is connected to .52 on this one. And it's waiting about 2 seconds, and then let's see if we can move over a little bit. Oh, goodness gracious. There we go. So I don't know whether I mentioned it or not, but when I printed this out, I printed out the, what do they call it, ticks milliseconds, just to have it so I could tell that this was updating when it was doing that. So you can see that every 2 seconds it's asking for a reading, and like I said, the button will be done. but every 2 seconds you're getting the reading, but it hasn't changed. But this is changing, showing that we're actually getting a reading. And you can see over here that it's sending that this first line here is what it's receiving from the client, and this is what it's sending back. Like I said, it's a Celsius : humidity, and that's what we got going on. And so I don't know how big I can make this. So I got my iPhone here, so let's see if we can see that too. So this is the one that just has the LCD screen and the yellow button on it, and we're getting our data from over here. It's still plugged in right now, so we can use the shell, but it has the battery hooked up to it. So and it's got the DHT11 on it, so it's sending to it. So I'll push the button, and you can see that it changed the Fahrenheit. And you can see, like I said, it keeps changing here, down here. So now I'm going to disconnect. So the Thonny goes crazy when you disconnect from it, so you'll see that. But I'm going to disconnect this. But you can see that we're still sending requests every 2 seconds. So this is changing, and this is still working here. This is our client. That's the LCD screen. So we're still, even though we're on battery, we're still receiving data. And as long as the other Pico stays within Wi-Fi range, you can get the data on that. So we can move this one across the room, or even if you had a nice enclosure, you could put it outside and it would keep sending temperature data from outside. And that's what I got for today. So kind of fun. Like I say, this goes crazy when you do it. Oh, I did want to tell you that you do have problems with this setup here when you plug it back in, because it kind of just messes up when you do that. There we go. I'm like using my iPhone here handheld, so it's not very clear. But when you do that, you lose all kind of stuff. I'm going to see if I can plug it back in here. Kind of hard one-handed. I'm going to set the phone down. Watch the screen. So both of them crash when you plug it back in. So I'm not sure what's going on with that. Of course, now it's, oh, and then when you try to restart this one, because the battery is still keeping that alive, so this one hasn't actually reset or anything. So we really can't do run the main without pulling that power out of the little board out of the thing and unplugging it. Then it'll reset. But right now it is not reset, and then you can't even run this. You'll get an error when you run this. It says it's still in use. Your Wi-Fi is still in use, so your Wi-Fi hasn't reset. Even though the program looks like it's not running, the Wi-Fi hasn't reset. So there's probably a way of doing that in code, but that's something that I haven't got into. Anyhow, that's my video for the week of how to make your project even more portable. Thanks for watching. Have a good day, everybody.